show you our log splitter that we use on our skid loader. It's kind of a handy setup, and I'll kind of show why here in a few minutes. Um, we made this one here. You can buy them like this. They're like a few grand out there, but we ended up making our own. We've had some trouble with it at times, and I can talk more about that. But the real benefit to these, at least for us, is the ability to split really large pieces. Um, Believe it or not, I don't even consider these large. However, you handle these all day long into like a normal splitter, even if you have it stood up, can kind of wear you out. Um, but we get trees sometimes that are cut up from tree cutting companies. They come by and just dump the wood. It's a nice setup. So contact any tree companies around you, because hopefully you guys know at least half the work is getting it just to this stage, being sawed up and cleaned up, all the branches and all that. So once you get it even into cut up pieces, just splitting it and stacking it or whatever from there, it takes a lot of the work already out of it. Um, so you'll see two kinds of log splitters like this for skid loaders. You don't always see the ones that come out straight like this. A lot of times they go the other direction. I've never used one with the other direction. I personally see this being way better, because I don't know, I can just manipulate things better. Hopefully you guys will see that in a minute. Having this is kind of like having two fingers out there in front of you. Is I can pick things up with just a little bit of pressure. I can pick pieces and move them. Then I can split them. With the kind of finger, I can roll them. I'll show you how I do that. I can roll pieces. I can move things around to get to the grain in order to split it best. But this is just really handy. The other week, I didn't record it. I was splitting oak pieces easily 3-4 times this size, hundreds of pounds. You could barely even move them by hand. But with this, I was able to roll it, flip it, and as long as, even if if it's smaller diameter like this, you can just split it, as you'll see. But then even if they're 3-4 foot in diameter, if you can stand it up on kind of like its rolling surface like this, and if it's not too thick, then just splitting it once like this will split that piece in half. So like with those big oak pieces, I split them so that I can manage them by hand. Because with this, I'm not able to split it as small as I personally like it, since my stove is pretty sensitive to dry wood. I need as much surface area as possible, so in order for it to dry quickly, I need the pieces to be fairly small. Using this big machine to get that small is really inefficient. But going from this big piece here down to easily a piece like this, it doesn't take me very long, and then I can manage this. If I wanted to split it again, I could. Like my in-laws wood burner, they don't need it split any more than that. It kind of is what it is. So it becomes at that point, as long as you can pick it up. So I'll show you a little more close up on this and talk about our experiences, what we've kind of learned along the way, what went right and what hasn't. So here's a closer look at it. Mainly you have your typical skid steer attachment plate, and then we welded a square tube to it. You may want to go with the bigger square tube. I'm not sure if it's due to the power of this cylinder, or I know it wasn't like this before, so I can't imagine it was it. But if I rested the skid loader on a piece on the wedge, and then you got the weight of the skid loader and everything holding it at that point, but it's got a little bit of a bend to it, bend up. And then we welded up some C-channels and things to mount the cylinder. We have a chain here that holds the cylinder back when you retract it This is very important, and this isn't the best, but it seems to be working. So with our last hydraulic cylinder, I forget what happened. I think it lost like the end support or something. It wasn't as good. A piece broke off. It wasn't supported well, so one day when I was splitting, I hit like an awkward piece, and the ram went out and it just bent like a paper clip. So we had to replace the hydraulic cylinder. Now, one thing that we didn't do, and my suggestion is to do this differently. The original cylinder that we had, I'll get out of the shadows, didn't have, you know, your typical lug and pin joint at the end. It just sat in kind of like a little bit of a cylinder there, almost like that one. So when we went to replace it, it was hard to find a cylinder that didn't have, you know, lugs already on the end. So if you do that, I would put a lug joint there. And the difference for us was if we put one with the lug on it, then it shifted the cylinder and everything was different up front. I think we ended up changing that anyway. So I'd put a lug joint in there. You know, have a little bit of support. This doesn't provide much, but it's something. And yeah, so the guide, I was mentioning that you want to support this end piece so that it can't twist, and you know, it doesn't put undue stress on the ram and things like that. So as loose as this is, it gives it some flexibility, but it's worked so far, surprisingly. And then on the end, you know, we have our wedge. We actually had one just randomly one time. It used to be just a wedge that was welded up under here, and it literally just banana peeled the weld off. But haven't had issues with this setup. I've been using this one for quite a few months now. So you got a lot of power in this system. So even if you get like big knotty pieces, you find the right grain in it, and you'll be able to split it. So yeah, I guess we'll move on and show this thing in action. other thing I'll mention, so we have the beam centered on the splitter. I have the camera mounted to the side, and if we ever had to do it again, I would actually mount it offset, because especially when I get into smaller pieces and I'm trying to figure out if I got it centered on the piece, I'm always looking left, looking right, because I'm sitting dead center on the splitter. So if any of you guys ever made one of these, I highly recommend just offsetting it, even just 6 inches, such that you're not cocking your head to the left, to the right, just to make sure that you're on center, because then it's just a waste of time. If you don't have it right, then you got to back the cylinder up and so on and so forth. So you guys can see, I'm splitting all these pieces, and all I'm doing is, a little leg work and hand motion, rather than wrestling these pieces around. You can see that sometimes I grab a piece and I'll use that as a broom and kind of sweep all this together to get it in a little more of a pile, and then eventually I can get a bucket with this skid loader and scoop it all up. Or if I really want to minimize how much dirt and things that I pick up, then you can load it by hand, but it's all how much effort you want to put into it. This wood turned out to be oak. You kind of saw everything there. You saw sometimes I didn't have the strength or the power to split it, so I back off of it, try it somewhere else in the grain. This piece here was an example where it got stuck. There was no releasing it, so I had to hammer it off. I'm not sure what power of cylinders you guys have. Even your conventional log splitters can have that issue. But more power you got behind it, and if it gets stuck, then the more power it takes to get off. But yeah. So hopefully you guys see, big pieces, you can do a lot of wood considering their size in a little bit of time, and it can certainly be more manageable. Now, since this is oak, I might end up taking it to my house too, and then I'll take this piece, and I don't know, I might leave that because there's a lot of surface area for it to dry, and honestly there's cracks and everything in it where it's already started to dry even before I split it. But then some of these, like this one, I might split in half, split these one more time. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I wish I had a really big piece. I've got a couple over there. Maybe I'll show you a clip later if I get to it. But like I said, there were some oak pieces I was splitting the other day. They were this big around. And what do you do with them? But this machine makes it a lot easier and more manageable. So, all right, have a good day.